name is a theme park evangelist. Well, I'm finally doing my How to Stay Faithful and Focused on God vlog for the week. And it's ironic that this week's vlog, given though it was not planned, is now going to be on how to stay faithful and focused on God during termination from a job. So, yeah, it's definitely one of those things that you would never expect. And the reason why that's going to be this week's topic is because earlier today, my fiance got fired from her job. And I actually just talked about that in my last vlog. So, that's also why... Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm cooking dinner. Excuse me a minute. I meant to say second dinner. But anyway, ironically, I was supposed to vlog this Monday, and it didn't happen because I overslept and I ended up doing laundry. And then I went out and did DoorDash. And I'm kind of glad I did too, because I don't know how I would have afforded lunch or whatever the next day. Well, on Wednesday, I should say. And I also needed some money for other purposes as well. And then I was supposed to do it Tuesday, and I actually had more than enough time, and I knew with the incoming weather that there was no way I was going to go out and do DoorDash, and I knew I was going to be staying at my hotel tonight. Actually, that's where I'm filming this from, is from my hotel. They actually gave me this room for free. So there's a catch. Yes, I am staying in this room for free. However, though, they have to choose the room, and I also have to be willing to be on call. So if that phone rings back there, and the front desk needs me to come downstairs for whatever reason, I have to be willing to get up, even at 3 o'clock in the morning if I'm dead to the world, and go down there and deal with whatever situation is going on. So it's not as glamorous as I'm making it sound like. And let me just point you guys back to point number 1, which is the fact that they are only doing this because of the fact that right now the weather's kind of crappy outside. So if this might be the last time, excuse me a second, this might be the last time that I get to stay in this hotel room, because one of the downfalls about working here, I'm not allowed to stay here otherwise except for snow emergencies. So yeah, there was one other time that they offered to let me stay here, and I said no because of the fact that it was very last minute. See, the one thing my managers are learning about me is I need time to prepare for staying here. I don't like it just flung at me and then expecting me to just drop everything and come over here. It's like, no. I don't work like that. So, yeah, needless to say, tonight I was a lot more willing to say, yeah, absolutely, because I was given over 24 hours notice, and I was able to not just help Katie fill out an application for Publix, which, by the way, Walton, Kentucky Publix is opening to the public on Wednesday, March 26th. Hold on, let me verify that. What is it with them opening it on Wednesdays? Yep, Wednesday, March 26th. What are the odds about that? So, yeah, needless to say, that is the day of the week that I will be more than likely starting with my new job if I ace the second interview. So, yeah, be praying for that. And be praying for Katie that she'll get this job with Publix, which I spent over an hour helping her apply for. And meanwhile, I'm starting to stink, and I haven't brushed my teeth yet, and Um, I didn't get a lot of sleep. Like, I don't know what it was this morning, but it's almost like God told me to wake up a little earlier than usual. It's like, it's not even 10 yet. I didn't even get to sleep until 2:30 in the morning. Are you kidding me right now? And I'm like, okay, God, whatever you say. So I got up and, I'm laying there in bed watching Epic Universe trailers because I'm like super stoked about it. And I got this call out of nowhere, and Katie was bawling her eyes out. That's when I found out, and I was like, okay, God, now I see why you did what you did. So anyway, that's pretty much what I'm going to be talking to you guys about. And truthfully, guys, I had no idea what I was going to talk to you guys about when I did this vlog. Like, I said I was going to be brainstorming. I even thought about it in my mind, and I truthfully did not know what to do. And I really prayed hard. I was like, okay, God, I really need to know what I need to talk about. And this was the answer to my prayer, I guess. Now, if you excuse me for a couple of minutes, I'm going to eat this. And yes, I shouldn't be eating second dinners, but I admit I have a bit of a weight problem, if you couldn't tell. And then we'll get right to it. Alright, let's picture this. So, sorry, let me bring my voice down a little bit. So, anyway, imagine that you are, that one guy or one lady. You come into your work, it's a normal day for you. And suddenly, someone walks up to you, typically a superior. And superior says, we'll go with Joe, my very first boss name ever. Joe wants to see you in his office. And you go, okay. And let's just pretend for fits and giggles, you got two different employees. Let's just say one of them has been with the company a very long time, years in fact. And the other one is brand new to the company. Both are going to be fired for no reason. One of them we're going to say let go. The other ones are going to be straight up fired. So the first one we're going to pretend is the new hire. So you come in, boss says sit down, and starts talking to you and starts asking you how the job is going, blah blah blah, and you start talking about the fact that I've only been here we'll just say less than 3 months, and the boss listens. Then another manager walks in the office and stands by the door. And you're like, okay, what's going on here? Then the manager says that he's been getting all these complaints about you, and because you've been there less than 3 months, unfortunately, he has to fire you. He doesn't have to give you a reason. He just says that because you're within your 3 month whatever you call it, probation period, he is obligated to let you go. What do you do? And that's just one of those situations that unfortunately a lot of people deal with whenever they are at their job, especially people who are within their first 3 months. It's a very discouraging thing, and unfortunately, it happens a lot. So, anyway, then you've got the next person. Next person comes into work. This person's been in the company 30 years. In fact, they're getting ready to throw this person a huge party, get a cake and everything. And let's say that Joe calls him to the office again. calls this person the office is what I meant to say. And Joe says, he's, really proud of this guy, and he is really happy with all of his hard work, but he says unfortunately he's letting him go in 2 weeks. Shortly after he has his party, that's it. He's done. And at that point, the employee's going to wonder why. Why let me go? Like, is there a reason? And according to the boss, if there ever was a reason, and then the boss actually doesn't give a reason, because we no longer need your position. Or it's because you've been with us so long it's costing us too much money to keep you on staff. And we're actually doing this with a lot of employees. But then you start asking other employees that have been there even longer, and they say, that's not true. They're just trying to find a reason to get rid of you. Obviously, you're not doing something that the boss doesn't, you're doing something the boss doesn't like. And the boss doesn't want to tell you that. So where am I going with all this? People get fired all the time. It's just one of those things. I've been very fortunate my whole entire working career. I've never been fired in my life. That doesn't mean it can't happen, but it just hasn't happened yet. But I do sympathize for people like Katie who have been fired probably 5 to 6 times in the past number of years. And it's just like, oh my word. Like, are you kidding me right now? And it's like, what do you do? Well, obviously, the only thing you can do, trust God. How can I trust God when I don't have any kind of income? You just do. You just know God's going to provide. Well, nobody else trusts God. That doesn't mean you don't have to. I had a breakfast with my good friend James from Austin. Well, he's originally from here in Kentucky. He's from Grant County, actually. But he has a part-time residency in Australia. And it was actually Katie's idea. She had just gotten this job, and this was just before the termination. I'm not even joking. And she had just gotten her first paycheck from them. And she has said, she really wanted to treat us to breakfast, or treat me to breakfast. She was in a really good mood, all that. And I was like, well, you shouldn't have to do that. Like, that's not right. And, I was feeling really bad. And Katie was like, oh, no, nonsense. I don't mind. And I said, well, we should invite James. I think that would be very appropriate. And Katie was like, yeah, we should. So, he can pay for himself, naturally. But Katie really wanted to pay for both of us. So I invited James, and he didn't just come along. He ended up paying for all 3 of us. I was like, oh, whoa, dude, you didn't have to do that. But anyway, let me get to the point. So, we're sitting there eating breakfast, and, it's just what really got me that particular morning was not just that he, didn't just provide us food, but, I was talking to him about struggles, and he even said to me, no matter what happens, no matter what you do, you trust God in everything. Don't ever forget that. And that's just something I always need reminders of. And, even though at that particular time, we were just sitting there eating a crap ton of food and laughing, I needed that reminder. Trust God. God will provide. And I need to remember that again. Katie needs to remember that again. Right now, I may not have a lot of money. Right now, I may not have any way to make any additional income until Thursday. Right now, I might just have the hotel to pay my bills because of the fact that the roads are not that great right now. I might be able to sneak out and do some DoorDash tomorrow. I don't know. But the one thing I always got to remember, no matter what happens, is God will provide all the time. And, I'm just, wanting to be truthful with you guys with, even though I've had a job this whole time, a full-time job at that, even though it's acted more like a part-time job here and there were times when I honestly wondered when I was gonna be able to afford, how I was gonna be able to afford groceries. Let me back that up. And God would send me some of the craziest DoorDash orders, and I was making pretty good money, and I would just break down and cry because I just did not know how I was going to be able to afford to get from today till tomorrow, and God provided anyway. Even though I wasn't unemployed or anything, or if I had been fired or anything, it was still like, wow, like, God, you just knew. And God always has been providing. Like, there are times when I'm just doing a silent prayer, like, okay, God, I really need help. Like, I knew even on Monday, like, I knew there was bad weather coming in. I was praying, and God blessed me $25 from DoorDash. So, God is definitely always answering prayers. And just think, that was 90 minutes. I mean, that's not terrible, but it's not great either. But you know what? I'll take whatever God can bless me with, and I'll figure it out from there. And I mean, yes, the weather was not as bad today as it could have been. Yes, God gave me the opportunity to go out and do DoorDash. I just chose not to. I chose to make sure that Katie was taken care of first. There have been so many, opportunities for me, even over the years, to put myself first, like TJ always did. There have been, this may not necessarily have anything to do with unemployment, but it definitely has to do with knowing what God wants and what the world wants. And there have been so many times over the years when TJ and Kay would invite me to go do something with them. And I would say, I can't, because I gotta do this, I gotta do that. And the thing is, they wouldn't give up. They keep begging and begging and begging. And I stood my ground. I was like, heck no, I ain't changing my mind. I don't care how much you beg. The answer is still no. If God wants me to go to work more, then that's what I need to do. Because God already knew what my future was going to be like long before I even knew about it. God knew that who I was going to be getting married to long ago, back when I was all worried, oh, I'm going to be an old hermit. God already found that young lady that was so sure she was going to be an old maid the rest of her life. And God probably did tell that same woman that she's not going to be an old maid, and Katie probably half believed him on that. It's just, one of those funny things. But you know what? God always does provide. There was a point in time when after we had just moved here back in 2019 from Florida to Kentucky, and my dad tried applying for Answers in Genesis, and he tried going for AV, and Joe Boone, the vice president of Answers in Genesis, actually spoke to my dad on the phone and refused to hire him, and probably even went as far as talking to Ken Ham and said, let's put him on the no hire list. And I was like, wow. At least for that particular position. Now, I did manage to get him a seasonal position with the Creation Museum, which is still part of Advanced Studies in Genesis. But it took a very long time. But what really took my dad the longest was helping him understand that sometimes you need to be willing to stoop down to the lowest level possible in order to survive. And I know this is going to sound silly, but my dad, for the longest time, would have rather stayed home, stayed unemployed, than going out and doing anything just to make some kind of money. And I even tried to remind my dad constantly that nobody says you have to do that job forever. It's just until something better comes along. I said, I'm doing that right now. I said, this is not what I want to do for the rest of my life. There's no way. I said, I still want to go work for Answers in Genesis, but this is what I'm willing to do to survive until I get what I really want to do. But my dad kept looking at the fact that he has an associate's degree, that he was in his late 50s, and the fact that he's got all this experience and he refuses to stoop down to that level. And I even said to him, only you know that. That is between you and God only. I said, nobody else here has any clue about that except me, Jonathan, and my mom. And mom. That's it. Nobody else has any clue. But yet, he refused to look past that. It took him over 3 months before God finally got through to him. Not that God is a wimp or anything to that nature, but the fact that my dad was being so hard-headed about the whole situation that it literally took God 3 months just to finally, go, you know what, screw it, I'm going to apply for something. And honestly, it even took me going kind of over my dad's head and applying my dad for something before he finally went, you know what, whatever, I'll do it. And it ended up being not that bad. And you know what's funny? It's whenever I'm not around is when my dad tends to miss me the most. But when I am around is when my dad's kind of like, okay, David, you need to go back home now, or you need to go away. You're kind of around too long. And I'm just like, well, that's kind of rude, but okay. Like, I remember when I had just gotten back from Florida, and I think this was like right when COVID started, and my dad came and picked me up from the airport, and I could tell he missed me because he was working in Menards at the time, and he actually stopped to thank me for applying him there, first of all, and then secondly, he was telling me all about this time when he accidentally burned his hand. He actually said he wishes I was there because he said I would have been able to help him. And I was like, okay. Like, that really caught me off guard. There are times when, when we're unemployed and you're just kind of like, get away from me. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want anything to do with you. And then there are times when, we're unemployed and, that when we need that person the most, they're not there. And that's when you kind of wish, I kind of wish that person was there. This is where Katie is different from, let's say, my dad. Because when Katie's unemployed, all she wants to do is sleep, eat, and watch TV. And if I'm around, then she wants to spend all of her excess free time with me. Hopefully, Katie will not overeat, this time because of the except for when I can't be there with her. So like hopefully this weekend she won't overeat as much because of the fact that I can just come over and spend time with her. But I know right now this is a very discouraging time for her just because of the fact that, is she's just not had a lot of luck since she's moved here. And I'm sure she's thinking the same thing my dad did back 6 years ago. Why did I move here? Why didn't I just stay? But the one thing that Katie always has to remember, no matter what, is she cannot move back. Her parents have told her so over and over and over again. And I think that I think, guys, it's the one thing that God really wants us to understand is the fact that even when we want to throw in the towel, especially when it comes to unemployment, lack of money, when sometimes we need people like our parents to remind us that all we can do is push forward. All we can do is look towards God and know that God's got our back no matter what. And God's going to help us push forward no matter what happens. It might be tough, but you know what? God will make it work out. He always does, and He always will. And He's going to be there with us even during that unemployment time. Even though He may not be there like you want Him to be. But you know what? He's going to make it work. Well, I've got one more vlog for you guys, and that's it. And this one is actually going to be titled How I Feel About Tithing, or How I Felt About Tithing in Florida versus How I Feel About Tithing Now. The reason why I felt inspired to talk about that in this week's random vlog is because the past 2 weeks we did a sermon series on tithing and why God really wants us to tithe even when we may not be able to afford it, when we can't afford it. So I really felt inspired to talk to you guys about my thoughts on tithing back then versus my thoughts on tithing now. So if you guys are encouraged to do so, I would definitely watch my next YouTube video, which will be uploaded on Thursday at 8 a.m. Actually, I take that back, 5 p.m., sorry. So, always remember, you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. Have a great day. Peace out.